Superhuman swordsman, Jedi, Sith Lord type characters that can use the Force but is too overpowered to be canon, that's Starkiller for you. I think they could easily make him canon by just making him an Inquisitor or something. I mean, I understand they don't want to make him as strong as Vader because that's going to steal Vader's thunder or mojo, spotlight or whatever, but he could still be a Force user that's under him still, like Inquisitors. But let's be honest, the Legends characters or the non-canon characters seem to be more powerful anyway. They got a lot of comics and books to pull from when it comes to feats, when it comes to Legends. There's basically two Star Wars universes that have similar things about them, but there's also drastic differences. Like in Legends, none of this happened. But in Legends, there's actually a lot of other Sith Lords back in the day that we get to deep dive into. There was technically a Starkiller and a Starkiller clone, but I'm not going to be differentiating between them that much because they're basically very similar anyway. Vader said, I got to take this guy in because he knew he was strong with the Force when he realized that somebody this young could pull his lightsaber out of his hand. Even though one can say this was just him off guard. Throughout Starkiller's journey, there was a point where he was actually on the light side, but then he would flip-flop to the dark. On the dark side, there's even a point where he fully embraced it, which is technically not canon because of contradictory reasons, even in Legends, but I'm still going to note it just for the heck of it, right? But this is definitely not canon, even to Legend standards. One could say this is like a what if he actually joined Palpatine and fully committed. Let's dive into him, though. He's one of them beings that's basically a swordsman and can disarm you and shows skills when it comes to wielding blades or lightsabers, laser swords. He's one of those characters that is not afraid to use his force abilities and use his sword play, laser sword, and throw it at times. Will even throw it in being's eye. Since he started off as a Sith Lord, he can use Force Lightning, or one could say another form of the Force. He can actually infuse his lightsabers with Force Lightning. He can make a shield of lightning around himself with the Force, dude. Are you serious? Talking about defense. He has really good senses because he's a psionic telepathic telekinetic being. While meditating, he can sense other things going on, stuff floating around him. He can do telepathic mind trick type of stuff, go in your head and convince you to do stuff that you ordinarily wouldn't do, like tell him information you wouldn't need to tell him, because he can go in your head if you're weak-willed and you don't have any force abilities and you're just weak-minded. Make a stormtrooper murk himself with a mind trick. He obviously has fighting speed thanks to his sword play, the force abilities enhancing his reflexes. This is effortless for any Jedi or Sith. When it comes to his fighting speed, he can dodge missiles because of his enhanced reflexes. One could say precognition could be helping him know what to do next. I shouldn't even have to show him blocking blaster bolts. That's just a common thing in Star Wars lore when it comes to their reflexes and fighting speed. He can technically enhance his durability with the Force, like him being able to literally touch or block beams of energy like this, and even deflect it back if he wishes. Just a lot of different aspects about him, blast power wise and stuff. Strength is not something he's being specialized in, but it's implied he has super strength thanks to the Force amping him up, just like how he can jump high and other Force users can jump high because of the Force enhancing them. Plus, we all know how superhumanly strong Darth Vader is because of the Force and stuff like that. Their physical attributes do increase with, even if they're not using telekinesis. When it comes to physical strength, that's not something he's being specialized in, but they can enhance their physicals to a certain degree, like how Starkiller can hold this droid up with one arm. Armor guards necks get their necks destroyed. Droids get their heads ripped off. When he hits beings, they actually go flying in the air to show how strong they are and agile they are. Like, look how he punches a metal wall and leaves a gash in it with his punching power. I mean, it's obvious they're strong. Look how high these beings can jump. When people try to use force, he blocks it physically to show his physicals. There's plenty of moments like this I can go over. Like, he was on the ATST, and he uses force-enhanced strength to rip this off of it and hit the ATST with it. You know, one of the strongest Jedi, of course, because they're in the Jedi High Council. Any Jedi in the Jedi High Council has to be pretty strong, along with Yoda and Mace Windu and stuff. Jedi Shakti, it shows his strength, enhanced abilities with the Force. Allows him to clash swords with Shakti to show his physicals is up there with Jedi High Council members. There's definitely clear writer intent. Look how he's clashing with her in occasions like this. But enough of that lightweight stuff. How strong is his raw power when it comes to his blast power, aka force push, force, how much can he lift with the Force? When it comes to how destructive his telekinesis is, let's get into it. All that weight he can lift. Matter of fact, he's so powerful with the dark side of the Force in these occasions, he can hold other beings that can use the Force and slice them with their own lightsabers in the process. Big tentacles like this from creatures he can blast out of. He can use your own arm against you with the Force and get it off of you, then use it against you to do that to you. When it comes to TIE fighter wings, he can lift them up with ease and make his own bridges, basically, or one could say places where he can walk. When stuff is in the way, big amounts of debris, he can Kamehameha his way through all of this bullcrap with his blast power. Big creatures or big opponents, he can parry the attacks from these opponents with the Force. We've seen him with the Force get in Force tug of wars and overpower them when it comes to Force tug of wars like that, or one could say beam struggles, right? Boom. Big creatures like this he's fought over the years, he can actually lift up and blast them with the force. These beings known as rancors he can lift up are actually a threat for ATSTs. His blast power or force lightning in general can also take out these creatures, even if he wants to just blast them with the lightning itself. His blast can actually cause walkers to explode with his electricity manipulation, can even mess up force users like this, even making them submit saying you won. His raw power doesn't stop there when it comes to the stuff he can lift up. Like, he not only lifts up an ATST walker with his raw force ability, but has the nerve to straight up crush it with his raw power output, showing his damage output. When he does stuff like that, it makes sense he can blast doors off the hinges like that. He can simply make transport ships stop or crash down with his raw force ability, moving them into the place he wants. Get down. I honestly feel bad for these walkers. They don't stand a chance when it comes to his raw power output. Starfighters and stuff he can just lift up. All this debris he can lift out of the way. Easily can lift over hundreds of tons. That's just another day in the life for beings like this. Top tier Jedi High Council members like Shock T, he can push back with the Force. If we're talking about his raw power with the Force, he can actually move big creatures, gigantic creatures like this with the Force. Just to give you a visual understanding on how much power output he got. Get down, creature. Yes. And you guys already know about the famous feat talking about size means nothing when Starkiller was going through his Jedi phase with his raw force ability, was able to manipulate this big Star Destroyer with the Force. No matter how you look at it, you can't lowball it. Even if it was already falling down, he manipulated a big structure like this. Not to mention TIE fighters are literally coming at him and he's grabbing them and hitting other TIE fighters with TIE fighters, guys, with the Force. And if you want to say that was just game mechanics, it was a literal cinematic of him doing something similar. If he didn't move it, they would not show the cinematic like this. He's literally moving it downward. That much weight he can manipulate with the raw force display. The reason why this is impressive, look how a Star Destroyer would look if it actually existed in the real world. There's people on the internet that do art on giving us an idea of how it would look in the real world. It looks like the size of a small town or a big chunk of a city. Just to give you guys a visual on how big these cruisers are in Star Wars, these big town-sized structures, these structures that are bigger than mountains. Like, look at a big chunk of the city it would take up if it existed. Then if we get into official novelizations for the legends, novelizations like this, for example, talking about the events of the game, but in novel form, it's confirmed these Star Destroyers at least weigh 1 million tons. This pretty much confirms that Starkiller could blast with 1 million tons of force at least, and think about it. Star Destroyer moving feats is like something that's happened more than once in the comics or in Legends lore more than once. Matter of fact, Padawans in this Star Wars Clone Adventures comic adventure booklet thingy, there's Padawans that are not even the top tiers of the verse, to where even if a big Star Destroyer like this is going to land and kill everyone, Padawan level beings that are not even High Council level beings, she can slow it down from falling on everybody, even though this takes massive strain. The fact that somebody that's nowhere near the level of Vader or Starkiller could do something like this kind of gives you an idea. If she can do this, then what can Starkiller and Vader do? Something this massive. She does strain herself and like passes over. If somebody like this can do that, we know Starkiller is definitely legit. And Starkiller can definitely blast with millions of tons of power at least. The fact he can do omnidirectional force of blast attacks against this many beings and freaking incinerate them all with raw power through the armor, this is just ridiculousness. They get incinerated with blast power. I mean, you know he's up there with Vader. I mean, look how he was able to actually overwhelm Vader himself when it comes to raw power. So you know he's up there with the top tier Sith Lords. We're not going to ignore we've seen him blast and do this to beings like Vader too. Because yeah, he can use lightning. Yeah, this is canon because this happened in the comic interpretation when it comes to blast. In this occasion, he used the lightning from the area to help power him up against Vader. To show he's up there with the top tier Sith Lords. Yeah, overwhelming him. Doing this to Vader himself. Because of power. Respect it. I mean, look at his blast power, especially the clone version of him in the sequel game. Look how he blasted Vader through all of this BS. Like, are you serious? This is arguably one of his best feats of all time. He got in a scuffle with Emperor Palpatine himself in the Legends continuity. Do you guys know how strong Emperor Palpatine is in Legends? Oh yeah, this actually did happen. This happened in the narrative and in comics. He actually got blasted by Palpatine and withstood it. There was even light moments where you can see him kind of get the edge over Palpatine for quite a bit. Despite Palpatine being this mighty, just slamming him like that. Of course, Palpatine wasn't dead or nothing. In this occasion, you can see him literally hold off blasts from Palpatine while being blasted as well, kind of shielding and pushing him back at the same time. This really gives you an idea of how strong could this guy actually be, even though he's clearly not on Palpatine's level or Darth Sidious's level. He's not like a million times weaker, right? One could argue maybe he's 50%, 20% of his strength. There's no math to this. It's just hard to say. But it doesn't look like he's a fleet in comparison, but he did end up getting murked because, you know, Palpatine, Darth Sidious is just ridiculous. But yo, losing to Darth Sidious is not disrespect at all. For him to even be able to hold off that lightning like that is absurd. He's fought Vader and Palpatine, some of the highest beings in the food chain. There's a good argument to be made that Starkiller was competing against a Vader and Palpatine that are technically planet busters since he's in Legends lore. Because even if he got overpowered, he wasn't outright blasted back with ease. So even if you want to say he's not on Emperor Palpatine's level, that's fine. The amount of power he displayed, it definitely showed he was at least on Vader's level. We literally seen him match Vader, get the upper hand, have a forced tug of war with Vader in both games, clone or not clone. Being struggling with Palpatine is just a feat no matter how you look at it. Considering in the novels, Palpatine actually got some of his lore expanded upon in this novel about Darth Plagueis. Starkiller matching the Emperor is insane because he's a being that has caused tremors on planets before, shake stars themselves. Sidious did. If a being with the Force can produce enough energy to shake a star itself, especially when you understand how small the Earth is compared to a sun, if somebody has the power to shake a star, and Starkiller is able to get in a beam struggle with this same being, even if he's not as strong as him, he's able to hold him off for 2 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever seconds before dying, of course. Starkiller technically wouldn't need the power to be able to bust a planet to even be able to compete with somebody like this, even for a little while with the Force. I mean, think about it. The size difference between the sun and the earth is ridiculous. If you could just shake a star itself, or even if you manipulate a small chunk of a star, it doesn't even have to be that much of the star. It will still technically mean you can move Earth-sized structures. And if you can move a whole type of star, you have to be able to destroy the Earth just to be able to move a star or shake it or simply make all of this crap tremble. He's one of those characters where we haven't necessarily seen destroy a planet, but based on the beings he's fought in the Legends continuity, we know Palpatine is one of them beings that can definitely destroy a planet in Legends. Him matching Palpatine just for a slight bit with his Force raw power output just kind of shows where he has to be at. Because doing something like this for Palpatine is just another day in a life, especially if you look at Legends, Luke and stuff. But yeah, we're not going to get into all of that right now. He was so mighty in the Force like this, which is only technically a what if, so this really shouldn't really count. But I thought it would be cool to put it in the video anyway. When it comes to his Force ability, he's still top tier, but he's like this. But this is definitely a what if, but this is still cool to see stuff like this. They even had a Force tug of war with their lightning clashing with one another, with Luke Skywalker in this what if, to really show how mighty he is in this what if and what he could have been technically, right? He even got so mighty with the Force to where even when Luke Skywalker delved deep into the dark side and had red freaking lightning, Starkiller had the might to deflect this red lightning back at Luke anyway. And he even pulled up on Leia because she trained in this what if, I guess, in the ways of Jedi to actually get fighting skills and Force abilities. These two clashed multiple times and lightsaber duels and stuff, tug of wars with like Force strength, I guess. Even though she got like the Skywalker genetics, Starkiller in this what if was still too much for her, to where even in blade combat, Force ability and all that stuff put together, he still was able to overwhelm her with his own skills and power. Like that, stabbed. Do you guys respect Starkiller? How strong do you think he could have been if he would have stayed? Do you believe it's possible for him to be up there with Palpatine or close to him, or at least 50% of Palpatine's power? You think he's comparable to Vader? Well, he kind of proved he was comparable to Vader. But yeah, what do you think he should go if he ever becomes canon again? I think they should make him an Inquisitor, maybe tone him down a little bit, but make him to where he's like maybe one of the mightiest Inquisitors of all time. Maybe make him up there with the Grand Inquisitor, if that would make sense, right? He's one of those characters that's fast, can react to blaster bolts, you know, the standard stuff that Jedi or Sith Lords can do. What do you guys think? How mighty do you think Starkiller is? Putting gameplay fun stuff aside, let's all agree not to put Cal Kestis in a fight with Starkiller. We all know Starkiller is definitely stronger with the Force, but when it comes to which game is more fun, I'm going to have to go with Cal's game, obviously, for, you know, just funness of it. But his games are fun too, because I grew up with them. But yeah, but before I get going, guys, I got to say thanks for the donation, everybody. It helps out a lot. Respect Starkiller. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.